My wife and I are both 42 and in marriage counseling after our marriage basically went to shit after having kids, 6 and 4-year-old twins. A lot of issues and disagreements have come up in our marriage that have driven us apart, and I have been working through my resentment that going back for one more baby resulted in twins, including one which we are pretty sure has ADHD and ODD and is a nightmare child. Our counselor asked me if I would have children if I had to do it all over again, and I said, honestly, no. I love my kids and would take a bullet for them, but if I had the chance to go back to 24 when I finished grad school and could do my life over again, I wouldn't choose fatherhood. It is not the fulfilling experience everyone claims, and while I love my children, the sacrifices are not worth it to me. I had a much happier life before having children and have gone from someone who loved life to someone who just makes it through the day, working a job he hates to provide for the wife and kids, while silently wishing this wasn't my life. My wife is furious and taking it the wrong way and even told our 6-year-old, "Daddy wishes you were never born," which makes me livid. You don't tell the kid that. Yes, I wish I never had kids, but I do love them, would never hurt them or want to upset them. And I didn't say it in front of my kids, and I never ever will. I said it in marriage counseling, what should be a safe space to talk about feelings. It has become a huge fight. Our marriage is not going to be saved now, and I know she will try and use this against me in divorce court to try and get sole custody and take everything and lie to the kids who I do love and still want to be a dad to them. She is incapable of understanding that you can love your kids but also feel that parenthood was the best choice for you. Am I the idiot for saying it though? Not the idiot, you said it in a counseling session where you are supposed to be able to talk through these things and listen to your partner without judgment. Your wife was majorly in the wrong for taking a comment out of the session and telling a child. If she didn't understand how you meant it, she should have discussed it further in the session. Your wife is trying to get to you by emotionally abusing and scarring the children. Not the idiot. Also, see a lawyer about this. Where I live, it is called parental alienation, and if proven in court, the custody goes to the parent who wasn't causing the parental alienation. Maybe it is the same for you. I love my 2 daughters so much, but if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't be a mom. It is still a big taboo to admit that having children isn't the most amazing thing in the world, but for a lot of us, the lows far outweigh the highs. I'd never ever tell my kids I feel this way, but I think this is something you should be able to be honest about with your partner in marriage counseling, and the fact she told your child this is disgusting. NTA. This is so sad. I'm so sorry. You're not the idiot at all. A lot of parents feel exactly this way. You love your kids, but you regret having them. That's pretty normal, and so is the guilt associated with that feeling. You're doing the right thing by going to marriage counseling, and I suggest going to individual counseling as well. Your wife should not have ever said that to your child. I doubt they'll ever forget hearing that. I, 46, live with my wife and my 17-year-old son. My wife has been on a different continent for about a month taking care of her dying mother, so it has just been me and my son for that time. My son and I have a very close relationship where he tells me almost everything going on in his life. On Saturday, he told me that he was going to his first ever high school party this upcoming weekend. He was a bit nervous since he had never really drank before, but he knew that he was going to on that occasion. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but this is in Canada, where the drinking age is 19 in my province, and teenage drinking is very common. I asked my son if he wanted to have a few beers with me while we watched a sports game that night as a test run of sorts. My logic was that if he goes into the party with zero awareness of his tolerance, then it could end badly, and it would be best for him to find out his limit in the safety of his home with me. We had some beers over a few hours in the night, and I cut him off at 6. He has had beer in the past, but never more than one at a time. He was pretty drunk, but he was okay and slept it off. We talked about it the next day, and we agreed that 6 was a bit much for him, and now he knows to have fewer than that at the party. I was actually pretty content with this whole situation since he had his first experience drinking in a safe environment, and I feel much more comfortable with him going to a party now. However, in an effort to be transparent, I told my wife about it the other day over the phone, and she was livid. She thinks it was reckless and irresponsible. Am I the idiot? No idiots here. It was perfectly responsible to help your son understand the effect alcohol has on him in a safe space. That said, you should have discussed it with your wife beforehand. A lot of people have very strong opinions on alcohol, and her feeling that she was of the loop is valid. That's good parenting. Your kid would most likely have gone anyway, even if you didn't drink with him. He was in a safe environment and knew beforehand what his limits should be. You're the idiot. Not for what you did, albeit unconventional, but rather for not letting your wife in on this decision. You should consider that things like this are going to be amplified, given the nature of what she's going through. Nothing about what you did was irresponsible or reckless. Your son had a few beers at home, he didn't get wasted, and he also didn't throw up or end up in a ditch. You were there with him, nothing too terrible could have happened. That being said, it might not stop him from getting very drunk at that party, especially if they have stuff other than beer. But at least now he has some experience and knows when he's starting to feel the effects of alcohol. You're the idiot, not for what you did, but because of how you handled it with your wife. For one, you should have run the idea by her. And not just because of how she might feel about alcohol. If you were motivated by concerns of safety, that alone should make it a joint parent discussion or decision. And two, if your wife is upset by how you handled something, you shouldn't be focused on justifying what you did. Well, some parts are already done, you should both feel reassured about what went wrong parenting-wise and focus on figuring out what would have made it better. He's been married 4 times now, and this wedding will be his 5th in the span of 30 years. I don't know how he has such a high turnover rate, but I'm guessing it's to do with him being both rich and a raging narcissist. He invited me to get coffee and introduced me to his new fiancée. I knew he was going to do this because 2 of my brothers, there are 7 of us total, none have the same mother, said that they had just gotten coffee with dad and met the fiancé, then been invited to the wedding, and both had been given a +1 for their girlfriends of 8 and 10 months respectively. Dad told me to bring my partner when I came for coffee, and I brought my trans boyfriend along. We have been together for 3 years. The fiancé seemed nice, wanting to know about me and my boyfriend and asking questions that sounded like she actually gave a shit. Dad gets all the details of the engagement and wedding out of the way and then asks me, and only me, if I'll be there. I notice that he was talking to just me, not my boyfriend, so I say, we will check if we're free. Dad replies that this is family only. I reply, I just assumed, seeing as how the other siblings got +1s. Dad says, that's different. Are you coming? I say, we'll catch the next one. Dad's fiancée becomes visibly upset and they leave. Dad texts me after that, if I can be civil on the day then I can still come alone. I felt like I had to stick up for my boyfriend because this was definitely due to him being transgender, and he thanked me at the time, but told me that I should probably still go, but after reporting back to my siblings to say what had happened I got mixed responses. The overall opinion was that, well, I absolutely should stick up for my boyfriend, this was some hell to die on, and I managed to catch the actually nice fiancé in the crossfire and upset dad too. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, I think it was the best thing you could have done in the situation, especially with the way your dad is. It's a shame that his fiancé may have gotten her feelings hurt, but she'll have bigger problems to worry about in a few months when she's sorting through a divorce. I'm sorry that your dad can't be more accepting. Not the idiot, because he invited your partner to coffee to make sure to avoid inviting both of you to the wedding. If he had invited you alone or spoken to you privately first, you could have discussed it without hurting anyone's feelings. Honestly, I thought it was clever, even if it was mean. His new fiancée can't be that offended when she's number 8 at a minimum for marriage and children. I get it if she's number 2 or possibly even 3, but maybe she needed this wake up to reality. Not the idiot. This is a hill to die on the issue. You've been together longer than your 2 of your siblings' relationships, likely longer than the engaged couple, but he excludes you from having a +1. That's insulting. Text your dad. You gave +1s to my brothers who have been with their girlfriends for less than a year. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and it's insulting not to include him. This is why I'm not going. You want me to celebrate your relationship while disrespecting mine. It's hypocritical and doesn't sit right with me. I'm a high school senior and my brother is a high school freshman. I have a car that I bought with money I'd saved from work and I pay my own gas. However, my parents pay my car insurance, so they said that driving is a privilege for me, not a right. They said I need to drive my brother to school even though there's a bus. And the problem is that I get motion sick easily, even when I'm driving. Too much driving makes me vomit, and bad smells when I'm in a car make me feel ill too. I'm not exaggerating, I've always been like this. As a kid, my family couldn't go on vacation without me puking at least once. I always make sure I know where my barf bag is on a plane. I always used to take motion sickness pills, but I'm not allowed when I'm driving because they make you tired. Anyway, I can handle the drive to school on my own fine, but when my brother is with me, I literally feel so sick because of his BO even with the windows on my side open. My friend told me I should make a checklist of what my brother needs to do before getting in my car in the morning: have a shower with shampoo and soap, brush his teeth, put on deodorant, wear clean clothes including underwear and socks, remember to use shoe antifungal spray. Right now, he doesn't do that, he likes to sleep into the last minute, skip showers most days, pick clothes up off the floor to wear, skip brushing his teeth, etc. So, I did that and told my mom and dad that I couldn't do it anymore unless my brother had done the hygiene list in the morning. Either they could check or I would. And they blew up at me saying that I was being nasty and humiliating, that if I wouldn't drive my brother I couldn't drive. And I said fine, I'll go back to riding my bicycle to school or getting a ride from my friend. And that caused a big fight because I guess they were not expecting me to call their bluff and give up driving. Am I the idiot for what I did? Not the idiot. That's a completely reasonable request. And what are your parents doing letting your brother go to school smelling like a ripe gym bag? I get that teenage boys sweat and can smell, but that's no excuse for poor hygiene. Good on you for calling their bluff. They're just mad that they don't have leverage over you anymore. I understand exactly what you mean, especially since I had to drive my brother to school too. You shouldn't be responsible for someone else's hygiene, and if you don't want to be trapped in a closed metal shell with them sitting right next to you, you shouldn't have to. It sounds like your brother is gonna have a tough time in high school if his hygiene is that bad. Best of luck, friend. I dig your play. As long as you were solid and willing to execute. I make it a point to never bluff, because if you get called on it and lose, you've permanently handed over power to the ultimatum jerk. You might want to get your hypersensitivity checked by a doctor, because this may lead to life problems down the line. I occasionally have hypersmelling, and it takes every bit of willpower not to barf from a regular clean house smell. Like Dawn soap is one of my triggers, and I use that daily. I understand that your parents feel that you are obligated to take your sibling since they cover your insurance costs. However, it is on your parents to ensure that your sibling practices good hygiene. They should be forcing him to shower, put on deodorant, etc. before going to school. By not doing this, I think that they are responsible for any bullying that he encounters. I also think that they are setting him up for failure in the long run by not teaching him important basic life skills. I, 23, am getting married to my boyfriend of 6 years in June. We're having quite a large wedding, fiancé has a big family, and we have a lot of friends, but my family is very small. My only family is my mom, never met my dad, and I have an aunt and uncle who are child-free. Since I was little, having no father, I always wanted my uncle to walk me down the aisle. My mom married my stepdad when I was 12, and I've never liked him. He's a bully. He says horrible things to people, says racist, sexist, transphobic things for attention, and heavily contributed to my mental illness and eating disorder as a teenager. My mom knows that we don't get along, and she knows I didn't like him, but I gave up on confiding in her about how much I disliked him when I was around 15, because she would always insist that despite having a nasty mouth, he was a really good guy, and he would never hurt us. So, it's been around 8 years since I've told my mom I hate him. I moved out when I was 19 with my boyfriend. I visit my mom maybe 3-4 times a week. I would try to time this around my stepdad working so I wouldn't see him. As a result of seeing him less, I was more able to ignore his horribleness, and we stopped arguing. I mostly stopped talking to him. He still refers to me as his daughter, and my mother insists he loves me. It is not mutual, but everyone has assumed that I love him too, and our relationship is just based on banter rather than tormenting. So, when I got engaged, I asked my uncle almost straight away if he would walk me down the aisle. He was over the moon, but my aunt was like, "Oh, you aren't picking stepdad," and I said no, I've always wanted uncle to do it. A few hours later, my mom called me crying asking why I wouldn't want stepdad to do it, saying it's broken his heart. I told her that I've always dreamed of having uncle do it. She pressed on about how heartbroken he is, saying he always thought we had a good, funny relationship. This is where I feel like an idiot. I said there was nothing funny about him ruining my self-esteem and teenage years. I hate him, and if it were up to me, he wouldn't even be at the wedding. My mom said that she's horrified that I still feel this way, once again spouting that he's a good guy and he loves me. I repeated that I hate the guy, and she said she'll tell him to back off. He's now angry at me and has asked my uncle not to walk me. My uncle is now not speaking to him, and I feel like I've torn what little family I have apart. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's your wedding and you get to choose. Your stepfather is out of line for contacting your uncle about this. You owe no one an explanation or justification. Your decision is made and it's not open for debate. Next time your mother brings it up, shut it down. My decision is made and I don't want to discuss it. If she persists, tell her that you'll talk to her later and politely end the conversation. Boundaries only exist if they're enforced. I'm sorry this is happening to you. I think it's time for you to have a long, honest talk with your mother about his past actions and how deeply they affected you. If things calm down enough, you don't have to include anyone in your wedding that you don't want to. Your wedding is for you and your partner. You both deserve to have the wedding you wish. Glad to hear that your uncle is standing by you on this. Not the idiot. Your wedding. He doesn't have to even be there. It's your day. You're making memories for your family. He's not part of that. The fact he's tried to ruin it by getting your uncle involved says a lot about him. I am the father of 2 wonderful, grown-up kids. If the best that can be said of a father is, he would never hurt us, that's just a shame. You're not the idiot. I hope your wedding is the beginning of a wonderful life.